2, 1. We're now live. Google is now starting us up. If someone could type in the chat if we're done, please put your thumbs up. Hi and welcome. Good evening, all. Welcome to Ahen-Tben, known as African Heritage Toronto Black Education Network Black Student Matters presentation. We are happy that all of you can make it. Tonight, you will be meeting 3 wonderful artists and a reading done by a young lady that attended Toronto District School Board African Alternative School.
Welcome. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you our executives for the Ahen-Tben organization. First, we have the co-chair, Tina Opare. Could you open your screen and wave? Next, we have our treasurer, Jenessa Palmer-Sims. Next, we have our 2 secretaries, Donminique Taitt and Simone McKenzie.
Hello.
It's Madeline Bussue and Kevin Watson. Communication, Bianca Parris. And we'll just like to take this opportunity to shadow our liaisons. There's so many of them, but we're wishing all our vice principals and superintendents well, and we're just shouting you out from the Ahen-Tben family. Thank you. Now over to Donminique Taitt.
Thank you, Valarie Taitt. Omarr Williamson is an animator and illustrator based out of Brampton, Ontario. He specializes in layout and background design for animation. He studied at York University, where he obtained a BA in visual arts. Omarr has also studied at Seneca College, where he received a diploma in both illustration and animation. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Omarr Williamson. Thank you.
How you doing?
Thank you so much, Donminique. Welcome, Omarr.
Hi. How are you?
Omarr, thank you very much for being here today. I want to ask you quickly, how does your work commit to our current social and political issues?
That's a very good question. So I think to answer that question, I think I will have to kind of go back to what inspired me to want to do this book in the first place. I think me, as well as a lot of other people, were extremely touched, especially last year, by the Black Lives Matter protests that began in Minneapolis with the death of George Floyd. And I think what actually, there was almost like a pivotal moment within that where I was watching videos, and one of them I had come across was a video where there were protests around the world. So I was seeing protests in Japan, protests in parts of Europe. And that kind of hit me in a different way, in that I was thinking that there are all these people protesting around the world for an issue that affects Black people in America, but also people within the larger African diaspora. So to me, I felt like I wanted to do something that spoke to that climate, spoke to that time, and would resonate with people, because I felt like there was something I could do, and that would be, if there was something I could do, I would be lending my artistic talents to that, if you will. So I just felt like I couldn't sit back and do anything, and that was a specific issue that I wanted to speak to was not only those protests, but the Black Lives Matter protests that we've been seeing going on for quite some time.
Thank you. Yes, there is a lot we can do. Now you talked about you went to school and you had some people that teachers that mentored you. Did you have any people that influenced you in any way, or were there to back you up?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. When it comes to art, I've had some phenomenal teachers. I've had one of my teachers I can speak to, if you have the chance to watch it. His name is Werner Zimmerman. He taught me children's illustration. That was one of the courses that kind of opened my eyes to this entire sort of world of illustrating for kids' books. But I've been influenced quite a bit by various artists, especially some of the more like recent stuff coming out. So if we're talking about artists who influenced me, Basti Harrison, her work, which inspired the movie Hair Love. That was a very interesting film to me, and I took a lot of inspiration from that as like more of a modern thing. But yeah, I've had tons of influence, whether it be teachers, a bunch of my classmates are probably watching, so I want to shout them out too. But they definitely have like helped inspire me as well, and it pushed me in a lot of these different artistic directions. But in terms of some of the more recent influences and my teachers, but not just my teachers, my fellow students and people I went to school with as well. So yeah, I draw influence from a lot of different places.
Thank you, Kevin. So I know you draw influences from a lot of different places, as you mentioned, Omarr, but how has your education prepared you for your career in the arts?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So part of how my education prepared me, I've been drawing since I was about 5, maybe even before that, but for as long as I can remember. I've been drawing since like the 1st grade. I was the kind of kid who would stick all his drawings up on the wall, like consistently, just fill the entire wall with my drawings. And I was also the kid who would use his title pages to kind of get away with maybe wanting to write less. So I've always enjoyed drawing as a medium to push myself forward. But I started to realize later in life, whilst I always felt like I was drawn towards drawing, and I always thought I was fairly good at drawing. It wasn't until I got higher up in academia that I was sort of pushed to the technical side of my drawing. So really push myself to not only create art in various ways, but challenge myself with various things like anatomy and structure, proportion, perspective. These are things that I learned as I got older, and I wish, at some point I had learned those earlier, but like those things come with time, and academia really helped me push those elements of my art. So that was I would say that's essential. That's gotten me to where I am today.
Okay, nice. So I know you talked about the Black Lives Movement last year, but was there anything else that inspired you to write your Life Matters?
That was a huge inspiration. I mean, I've been wanting to write a book for a long time, and I felt like there weren't, even beyond the Black Lives Matter protests, there weren't a lot of books that had just Black characters in them. So I think I had read a statistic somewhere, and don't quote me on this, but I know it's lower than 10% of characters within children's books are represented as Black characters. So there's definitely, for me, there was sort of like a gap in that space, and they're just not being characters that everybody can relate with. And I feel like we need just diversity in general. So that was also part of what drove me, is I felt like there needed to be more books within that space. So they kind of just married each other at the same time, where this was all going on, and I also wanted to make a book that had a Black character as the lead protagonist. So that was something that was also crossing my mind as I was creating the book.
So, Omarr, I was just reading a part of your book. It's called Your Life Matters. It's a really nice book. You wrote a section that says this: Your life matters when you're reading a book or studying for a test. I noticed that there's a young Black lady studying for a test, and you talked a little bit about students and rates of, I guess, students being successful. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you meant by when you said that?
That particular page where she was speaking about the test. Yeah, so the book essentially is meant to be a poem, but in that particular part of the book that we reach, it's essentially, there are times where for pretty much in any aspect of your life, you're going to face adversity and things that are a little difficult. And I can speak from prior experiences being in academia, it's not always easy. And those are times that, especially in today's climate, we have a lot of mental health issues that are coming to the forefront with academia. And so I think it's important to always remind yourself during those times, especially those times when you start to get down on yourself. The book is meant to be uplifting, and it's meant to kind of give positivity, encouragement. I think that in those times where you're not feeling the most encouraged and you might just be sitting up with the book and it might not be resonating with you and it's tough, it's also important to know that there's value in what you do and there's value in yourself. So I think that was part of that particular section that I wanted to engage with, like not only during the good times, but also when things get tough and there's adversity, your life is still important, and you should always continue to strive and push forward even when you're facing adversity.
Now, you talked about obstacles and overcoming obstacles. How do you overcome these obstacles? I find that many students have different obstacles in schools nowadays, and it's sometimes very hard to overcome any obstacle. How do you overcome, or how does one overcome these obstacles?
That's a very good question, Gavin. So I can say within my life, one of the obstacles that like I would say I faced was that there was a lack of resources in that there wasn't many outlets for young Black children who wanted to draw and wanted to get into various industries within visual arts. I will say that what's helped me get through it is leaning into my support structures, whether that be friends and family who have been supportive. Also, I would say that like there's always an end game with whatever goal that you have, right? So I would say that, you know, keeping your eye on the prize is important. And I would say that I definitely have faced times where I felt like maybe art wasn't going to work out with me as a path because there's always sort of the stigma of the starving artist. But I think if you look at arts as well as other fields, I think you can look at them as things where, you know, the more you put into it, the more value you'll get out of it. And if you push hard enough, you can essentially do whatever it is you want to do in life. So I would say that in those times where it's feeling adverse, it's important to remember that there is always a goal that you're keeping in mind, and if you push forward with it, good things can happen, and you can achieve your dreams. It's not unreasonable to want to dream to work for Disney or animate for various studios. So I would say when it's tough, remember that there's always a purpose to what it is that you're doing. And that if you pursue your passion, whether it be arts, because people will tell you they're starving artists, that doesn't always happen. You can be successful in whatever it is you do. So I would think it's important to remember that.
Now, I was reading another part about your book. It talks about this page right here. You know what? I don't want to spoil it for the readers. How do we find out more about you, or tell me about more about how we can get a hold of you or contact with you?
Okay, so my Instagram handle is OmiDoodles. That is OMI Doodles. And you can follow me on Instagram. My website is Omarr with 2 R's always, Omar with 2 R's, Williamson.com. And you can actually contact me directly there. Like it'll send it right to my email if you would like to contact me. I do check my Instagram more often than, let's say, my Twitter. So you can reach out to me on Instagram. I do my absolute best to get back to people. And yeah, my website, omarwilliamson.com, Omarr with 2 R's. So send all your requests or questions rather to me there.
Thank you very much, Simone and Omarr. Up next is going to be our social convener.
Okay, so this evening I have the opportunity to introduce Freda Bizimana, I.M.F. She is a singer and songwriter, social work student, and youth worker. For the past 2 years, she has been working with youth in conflict with the law. She is the co-founder of Heartbase. She believes that music is her passion and her therapy. She is excited to present to us 2 of her original pieces. Let's enjoy as she shares her musical journey. Please welcome Freda Bizimana.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm I.M.F, aka Freda. Artist. Thank you. I'm an artist, singer, songwriter. So thank you so much for that introduction. Before I start with the first piece that I'm going to perform, I just want to shout out Heartbase, which is I'm co-founder of. So if you want more information about Heartbase, you can go to heartbase.ca, or you can follow us on Instagram at heartbase_TO. We're a new initiative that work with Black youth using hip hop as a method for healing. So we use hip hop to engage and give a voice to Black youth in the community. So please check us out. So the first song I'm going to be performing is called Little Black Girl. So Little Black Girl is basically a message to my younger self and to Black girls around the world who struggled to embrace and love themselves. You know, I struggled for the longest time to love my hair, to love my skin, especially growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So I hope you all enjoy this piece. And whenever, let's go. B to the L to the A to the C to the K, Black girl, yay. They tell you to straighten your hair, 'cause it's easier to do. They tell you how to live, but I got news for you. They don't know how to work with you. They're just so damn confused. They tell you to conform to what they're used to. Little black girl, don't listen to them. You know you're beautiful, you are a gem. These Western standards, we don't fit into them. So stand out, little black girl, little black girl. Your hair is beautiful, it is not a mess. Look at your fro and watch them obsess. Look at your beauty and all your melanin and never change yourself, little black girl, little black girl. Don't let them put you in a box, yeah. Be whatever you rock. Oh, you strong, courageous, and brave. You strong, courageous, and brave. Little black girl, little black girl, little black girl. Oh no, this is a message to them little black girls. Yay. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Now, next, we are going to introduce Nadine McLennon, who's going to do a reading.
Okay, let's try one more time. I know the volume wasn't up at that point in time. Let's give her a chance to try one more time. I know she worked very hard on this piece. So let's give her one more chance, please. So we just need you to press the unmute button, please.
It says press. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Savavva McLennon. Don't be shy, this is good luck. I will give you a minute and tell me this. I am a black anti-blackness at an early age. Sometimes people sound about my intelligence, but I do not want that problem because my mom, my first I am proud of my heart and my empathy. This will continue to shape any neighborhood, to take a stance and be the best possible way. I am confident that I can achieve my every goal. But together with the support of my community, let's rise up and be the best that we can be. I am that black child that you will not fail, and with resilience I will prevail. Again, please do not be shy and keep a good lookout. I am the black child. Savavva McLennon. Thank you.
Let's give her a round of applause for an amazing job. What a wonderful young woman. Let's welcome back I.M.F.
Hi, everyone. That was an amazing, amazing story. So my next piece is called Mother and Child. So I just want you guys to enjoy this story. I'm going to take you on a journey. And yeah, let me know what you think. I met a mother and a child migrating. From the Niles of Egypt, a land she once called home, to the mountainscapes of Cameroon, a new land her child will come to know. as home. I felt a mother forced to flee for a child's sanity, for their freedom, forced to leave it all behind, to keep their humanity, to be seen as human beings, to keep alive all that has been, the sweat, the tears, the bloodlines weaved in the land so beautiful, each beat a family tree, leading to the family that I see. A mother free, not slaved, to live how they've been from the first of her line. I hear her ask, when will my child be safe to be who he wants to be? I saw her always looking for a future where her child's worries are not what she feels, hoping to see him grow, to share all that she knows. I hear a mother weep for a decision that was made, that decided her son was a slave. Do they not know our history? We're all kings and queens. We're royalty. They came and took our lands, our sovereignty. Human race began and Mother Africa was the starting line. Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Somalia, Tanzania, Malawi, Liberia. The foreign empires did not just bring trauma and pain. They brought racism with people who even look the same. Divide, and they conquered, separating us. When will all this end for us? And from all that I saw, I still heard a mother sing to her child. My child, I see you, but that's not what the world sees. My child, you're beautiful, you're magical, you're royalty. My child, I hope you grow to believe what I see. My child, love and respect and integrity, for they don't know what they say. They don't know what they say. My child, oh my child, melanin shines so bright, melanin shines so bright. I have to let you go. I close your eyes, my child. Thank you all so much for letting me be a part of this. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone stays safe. And hopefully COVID, ends soon and we get to be away from this virtual world for a bit. So once again, I'm I.M.F, which stands for In My Feelings. I'm forever in my feelings. I'll be releasing music hopefully this year. So stay tuned. You'll find me somewhere. Thank you.
That was amazing. Very touching. You know what? Don't go yet. Don't go yet. I have a question for you. I know you do a program in the community. Can you please tell us what Heart-Base is and how does it benefit our community? I've heard about the program a couple of times. I know that when I was in corrections a while ago, we heard about such great programs that the community has to offer. And your program, the Heart-Base one, was one of the ones people do talk a lot about. Can you tell us how it benefits our program and what you're actually doing? We heard your musical talent, but what else are you doing on top of that?
In the community, yeah. So actually, Heart-Base is a new initiative, actually. So it's pretty new. We're going to be out in the community, actually virtually, in soon next month. So basically, I'm sure that it was another program, but there's been similar work done in many programs. I'm also work with a program that works with Black youth in conflict with law with the Delta Family Resource Center called Ounce Prevention. But for Heart Base, this initiative is using hip hop as a method for healing. So we're really focusing and working with Black youth. With my experience as well as my colleagues, hip hop has been a medium that has been used to express, and it's always been political. So when talking about things like anti-Black racism, police brutality, racism, this is the best tool to actually engage in those conversations. It's a non-traditional way of healing. It's a non-traditional way of therapy, if you please, without actually having to call it therapy. You know, using lyrics to actually engage with the youth and talk about difficult topics. You know, really work through trauma and things that they've gone through. Using lyrics, using Tupac, using Biggie, even using, you know, artists from Naughty, Little Baby. So really going from the 90s, talking about the history about hip hop, coming to now, trap, you know, mumble, how those all play a role. And we talk about those different topics. So it's definitely very important, more now than ever. Black youth need a space for healing. They need a method that works for them. And this is what works for them. And, you know, hip hop is one thing, but music in general, we connect. Music is universal. Music is a, you know, it gives everyone a voice. You know, sometimes when I'm feeling away, I use music. So being able to engage with lyrics and actually have those conversations with youth, you see that they start to talk, they start to open up. They're like, yeah, with this and this. And then they just, it just turns into this whole thing. They start to open up things they never really tapped into. So that's the beauty of this method. So please check out heartbase.ca. We'll be coming soon with more stuff. Definitely follow us on Instagram, heartbase_TO. So we're really excited for this project initiative to take off. And yeah, so thank you guys once again. Definitely music and healing is my two passions, bringing those together. Hence why I'm an artist and a social worker. So, so thank you so much.
My apologies. I was having technical difficulties. But yes, thank you so much. That was fantastic and very soul touching. Thank you so much. Uh, Fred is a recent graduate from North Dakota and North Dakota State University. He is currently finishing up his master's degree in educational leadership. Fred is a motivational speaker, community educator, program coordinator, and the spoken word artist from North and Minneapolis. The things that he has seen spoke through him with the energy he provides. He is passionate about helping others find their inner greatness and potential. He's spoken with hundreds of college, high school, and middle school students and provides testimony stories and struggles of resiliency. With 9 brothers and sisters, Fred is the 10th and last child. Before he was born, before he was before he was born, his mother had her tubes tied and she had 0.0001 chance of becoming pregnant after her last child. Fred was that 0.001. Please give a warm welcome to Frederick Edwards Jr. Before we get started, Fred, can you tell us what spoken word is?
Absolutely. Spoken word is very similar to poetry. It is storytelling, oracle telling that doesn't have the emphasis on rhyming or a strategic structure in which you tell a story through oracle word. And so for me, I always thought that poetry was where you had to rhyme at the end. And in order to express myself to my fullest capacity, I didn't need that rhyming at the end. And so that's what spoken word is. Hello, hello, welcome everybody. I believe that was my introduction to get started, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be a part of Ahen-Tben and their further impact in Canada. And so I love this topic. Black students matter, a remedy for the undervalued, disproportionately failed, punished, and labeled. At the end of the day, I think people have this idea that education and schooling are the same thing, and they are not. And so what we are currently in right now is schooling, and people have this idea that education and schooling are the same thing, but they are not. And so I have dedicated my life to a lot of this work, specifically for my people group, Black people. And I wanted to start inviting everyone where they are in this moment to enter this work, to look at this work. Nobody, including myself, is an expert on the succession of Black students. And to be completely honest, I'm actively learning every day. And so I invite you and everybody watching to learn from where you are in this moment. And so I have to acknowledge that I am currently in North Dakota. And so I am on stolen land, on the land of the Anishinaabe, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota. And as well as I benefit from the labor of people who were enslaved and brought here, and those were my ancestors. And so we're going to get started. I'm going to start us off with a spoken word piece. Here we are. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about my testimony. Let's talk about those thoughts that keep my mind in this negative terminal. I've lost 52 friends to gun violence. Let's talk about those nights. Let's talk about that pain. Are you listening? It's like you can't hear me. You can't hear my pain. You can't make me make myself feel better. And I learned at a young age, it was never about the cheddar. So many friends in prison because of it, and I can't even swallow my pride and write them a letter. Let's talk about why my people want to be so flashy and gain so much from self-indulgence. See, I'm not blaming you all, but you told me I was a criminal before I knew what jail was. You told me I was less than before I could add or subtract. Let's talk about those days at my friend's house hearing, why is this nigger in my house? Let's talk about I have to take my hands out of my pockets before I can go into any store, just so I won't be convicted of suspicion. Let's talk about I have to walk across the street when I see a woman on the same side of the street as me, in fear that she is in fear. Let's talk about the accidental macing that happened to me when I sneezed walking past a woman. And maybe she was trying to bless me, but the only substitute she had for holy water was mace. Let's talk about this illusion, this confusion. You don't know me, but you can define me. My people are lost and I am still trying to find me. I want to talk to you about why you have these irrational fears, but you don't want to talk about it. That was a spoken word piece that I developed in 2016 after the election of our current president, Donald Trump. And I believe that this piece further lets people know the experiences that I've had and many people all around the globe are facing that have similar experiences due to colonization, due to racism, due to discrimination, due to prejudice. I'm speaking to people who are currently in Canada, and a lot of people from back home are watching this video. And I think that it's important for us to see that these experiences are not just happening in America, but anywhere there is a hand of colonization, there's a hand of discrimination, racism, and prejudice, and so forth. And so you might be asking, who am I? First and foremost, I'm a master's student currently. This is my last semester of master's school, getting my educational leadership degree. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I'm a public speaker, a spoken word artist. I've kind of already told you what spoken word is. I'm a community educator and activist. And so I'm out there in the community, organizing and making sure that people are activated and ready to go and doing peaceful demonstrations and doing demonstrations to let people know that, it's one thing to have, boots on the ground, but that's not the only answer. There are so many ways to combat a system that is currently being perpetuated in all walks of life. I'm a program coordinator for Emoji Leadership Exploration. And so I'll be talking to you about that program a little bit later on. And the reason that this work is the most important is in 9 days from now, my child will be 5 months old, but I'm a father of a beautiful Black baby girl. And so I'm forever appreciative of everything going on. And so I just want to thank YouthWorks, in which Emoja is ran through. They a program in which I work for, but they also have helped Umoja get off the ground. And so they directly help homeless youth, youth that have been human sex trafficked, and people in communities who need housing, food, as well as we work in the educational system, helping people with diversion programs. And we do a lot of different things. And so I was very blessed to be able to be a program coordinator for them. But most importantly, this work, it takes all of us. It takes a village, and it takes, you know, the people who mentor me and the people who push me forward, like my big brother Andrew, and all the other people in my life who pushed me forward and wanted to be a mentor, wanted to be somebody who seen more in me than I've seen in myself. So I'm gonna get right into it. This is for the superintendents, school administrators, teachers, parents, and different people. We tend to see the tip of the iceberg, but many times those are the measurable behaviors of the culture in which is in schooling. But they don't see what is underneath, which is not easily measurable. And so there's a quote in which I feel is pertinent for this time. And it says, "The absence of social justice results in social oppression, racism, sexism, ageism, classism, ableism, and heterosexism. And those are some forms of social oppression in society. Societies and individuals form hierarchies of oppression in which certain types of oppression are addressed and others are not. Oppression of certain groups or individuals can result in social or legal exclusion, discrimination, inequitable distribution of resources, and emotional and physical consequences." And so I bring up a few things that are in this quote because I think that is important. And so I think what's an observable culture that we see in schools, specifically pertaining to Black students, Black adolescents, is we see that there are students who struggle with tardiness or sleeping in school, bad grades, arguing with teachers, physical altercations with peers, disidentification and disconnection with academia. And so I would say that I'm currently putting on my tool belt, and I'm trying to give you guys some tools to combat these specific areas, because a lot of times, you know, we are told that this is a problem for Black students when it's a problem for a lot of students who are the minority in America, but the majority in other parts of the world. And so what is not typically talked about are the non-observable cultures, which are the educational disparities, the negative treatment from authority, not having a sense of belonging, and lack of culturally relevant curriculum. These areas further impact and impede academic success. And let it be known that the success that I'm talking about is in terms of Western individualistic sense and academic behavior. So these areas are further impacted because white supremacy is developed in our schooling and education. And so the reason why I believe these students are struggling the most is because the educational system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. And that is to hold marginalized people down and dehumanize and perpetuate this idea of white supremacy throughout the school, throughout the curriculum, as well as throughout people's everyday lives. And so the educational disparities that I'm talking about are in education. They're reflected through academic achievement. Students are more likely to repeat or drop out of school altogether, lower participation in gifted programs and graduation rates and enrollments in high school, higher rates of discipline, suspension, and expulsion from school. And there was a study done by Osborne in 1997 that showed that students who are highly identified with academics saw good academic grades as rewarding and poor academic grades as punishing. Coakley in 2002 definition of academic disidentification was a lack of significant relationship between a student's view of his or her academic ability in comparison to their peers. So academic concepts and students' academic outcomes, GPA and grades. Thus, Black adolescents are vulnerable to academic disidentification. Black students between the years 2000 and 2016 make up the highest rates of out-of-school suspensions, according to the National Center of Educational Statistics in 2018. And there's a study done in 2015 by Gaylord Hardin with Black students, and it showed that they had few symptoms of emotional and behavioral difficulties in comparison to their white counterparts. And so, like I said before, a lot of times we assume that because these students are struggling with grades and behavior issues and different things of that sort, that they have higher emotional issues or behavioral issues. But in all reality, what is happening is that they're going to a school which perpetuates white supremacy. And so The treatment from authority that I'm talking about are these microaggressions from authority that are verbal, nonverbal, and environmental microassaults. You are seeing Black adolescents are receiving harsher punishments and disciplinary actions in comparison to their white students, lower expectations from authority, and teachers who are not qualified working in populations with higher higher populations of Black students. So adolescents who perceive differential treatment by teachers and counselors based on race are less likely to value school. Rosar found that in 1998, and evidence has been shown that in public education, authorities, teachers, counselors, principals, etc., play a large role in why Black adolescents lag behind their white counterparts in academic achievement. You are seeing this harsher punishment and disciplinary action. They are underrepresented in gifted and talented children programs and overrepresented in special education and emotionally disturbed programs. What you are seeing is a lower expectation from authority as well as teachers and administrators who are not qualified. So you might be asking, what qualifies a teacher and what doesn't qualify a teacher? So I would just talk about what doesn't qualify a teacher. They are not equipped with cross-cultural understanding. They have preconceived beliefs of students in poverty, lack of teaching experience for all social demographics. Thus, these inadequate distributions of well-qualified teachers have side effects like poor organized instruction, lack of responses to students' needs, and ultimately a failure to understand students' emotional and academic needs. And then there are the microaggressions. The microaggressions that I picked today, there are tons of microaggressions, but the ones I want to hit on are the verbal microassaults, including name calling, using racial slurs, nicknames, or descriptive names. They're the nonverbal assaults, including behavioral discrimination and parents and teachers discouraging students to hang around or be around other students, discouraging these different things. And then you see the micro assaults and environments, which include offensive signs, posters, or other visual displays. For example, cartoons of Black kids exaggerated in their facial features and different things of that sort. And in my personal opinion, I believe that history books telling a romanticized version of colonization and not telling the truth about colonization for the sake of saving face or comfortability for white people who are teaching these things is a form of an environmental microassault. And I believe that the reason that it is important to talk about these microaggressions for students and authority is because it gives people the ability to respond. And a lady that I care dearly about because she has taught me so much, she says that leadership is the ability to respond. Her name is Holly Mackey. And if somebody is responding, if somebody is giving you a microaggression or performing a microaggression against you as a leader, knowing and being able to label those things and identify those things give you a way to respond that is appropriate in that time. And sometimes you don't respond appropriately, but ultimately, if you're being aggressed against, it leads to disconnection and a lack of unity and ability to move forward when there isn't a shared value. And so one thing that I think is very important is for all school systems to have culturally relevant curriculum for the population in which they are teaching. If there are Black students in your schools, if there are Black students in your high schools, colleges, universities, or whatnot, you should not be teaching whitewashed versions of schooling and history. So most importantly, public schools contribute to the challenges of Black adolescents by failing to provide culturally relevant practices that meet the needs of Black adolescents. This was Harrison and some others. In 2020, they found this out. And then if you go back 20 years, it is the cultural knowledge, prior experiences, and performance styles of ethnically diverse students that make up an appropriate and effective learning. Donovan and Cross in 2002 recommended that teachers should be familiar with beliefs, values, and cultural practices, discourse styles, and other features of students' lives that may have an impact on classroom participation and success, and be prepared to use this information in designing instruction. Those are what I would call an equipped teacher, or somebody who is qualified for teaching. And then what I believe is most important is a sense of belonging. And so sense of belonging signifies the feeling of relatedness or connectedness to others. Lack of sense of belonging has been associated with depression, anxiety, alienation, and loneliness. And consequently, these negative effects can lead to decreased academic motivation, engagement, and academic achievement amongst students. McLennon and Chavez in 1986 found that a sense of community is that feeling that members belong, a feeling that members matter to one another in the group, and a shared faith that members need to to and will meet through commitment to being together. The reason sense of belonging is important is because the lack of sense of belonging is associated with depression, anxiety, and alienation. And on top of that, the title of the event tonight and the title of my PowerPoint is Black Students Matter. And I just want to let it be known that mattering is the minimum. To matter is literally the baseline where you start at, because there is no question that white students matter currently in public education. There's no question that white students matter in university, higher education. And so that is the minimum in which should be happening. And so these negative feelings can lead to decreased academic motivation, engagement, and academic achievement amongst students. And I think that that is very important. And so there are some tools to combat this systemic racism in schooling. Again, I think that this is such a complex issue that there's a multitude of ways to combat it, just like what we've seen with Omarr, with illustration, what we've seen with I.M.F, with singing and letting people express themselves in that way. Those are just a couple of ways to combat the ways in which Black students are thinking about what they are experiencing. And so professionals of color in leadership positions, cultural climate surveys, First Nation and anti-racist mandatory training. And so for my people back home in Canada, they call Indigenous people the First Nations. And so the thing that I think is most important, no matter where you are, no matter what people group you are working with, is developing relationships. And what I'm talking about tonight is rites of passage programs. And so me and a business partner of mine, Janelle Gibson, came up with a rites of passage program. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what that means. But again, I want to let it be known that there is no easy fix to the multitude of goals that can be accomplished. And at the end of the day, to combat systemic racism, to combat the discrimination inside the education system, has to do with abolishing certain things. Because at the end of the day, having school reform or educational reform in a system that was designed to not work for Black students will not work. And so we have to really think about how we are educating this next generation. And so I think that rites of passage programs give students the ability to think about themselves and their identity and their culture in a way that gives them a purpose and push them forward. And so, like I said, this is a tool. This is not the solution. I think a lot of times people want to come up with solutions for systemic racism in education, but in all reality, you're fighting a system that was designed to fail us. And I think that education is important, but education and schooling are not the same thing. And so rites of passage is an educational tool. And so rites of passage programs contain several components that include, but are not limited to, community involvement, positive role models, collective instruction, cultural and personal identity development, high expectations, and a safe, supportive environment with the emphasis on achievement and finding one's purpose. This program is designed to help students who are experiencing a life range of challenges that impede academic and social success. It strengthens their academic achievement and provides affirmative, social, emotional, and cultural identity development. And so there's been some research done on rites of passage programs by Thompson in 2013, indicated that many urban African-American students are disconnected from school settings because of their cultural divide between students and educators. And from the research that I've done on Canada, it seems to be close to the same type of thing with the cultural divide and different things of that sort. And so I know it says African-American students, but there is research done on African-Canadian and racialized Canadians when it comes to the divide culturally. And so Flores looked at the achievement gap of high school mathematics and found that there are unequal opportunities for Latino and Black adolescents to learn from experienced qualified teachers, and less likely to receive equitable student funding and more likely to face low expectations. So there's also research done on rites of passage programs with low income, culturally diverse students, and it is further warranted. So exploring the use of rites of passage programs can increase cultural understanding or provide useful information about intervention. And so that is where Janelle Gibson and myself, we talked about our experiences growing up and how we became the successful people that we are today because of mentors, because of people pushing us, because I grew up with two Black parents who taught me about my culture, who taught me about my history, and taught me to love my hair, taught me to love who I was, taught me about the different people who I should look up to, like Fannie Lou Hamer and Marcus Garvey and Maya Angelou and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and they talked about the different people who were talking about self-independence and understanding that we don't need to depend on other people. And so when we talked about, you know, all these different things that we had developing growing up, we wanted to make that into a program because that is a large reason why we are in the positions that we are. Like I said, I had a big brother named Andrew Edwards who looked at me. He's seen more of me than I've seen in myself. I had math teachers in school who looked at me and seen more of myself than I did. I had coaches like my coach in high school who looked at me and they asked me questions about myself and where I wanted to be in life. And so throughout my life, I have found that creating opportunities and platforms come with knowledge. That when me and myself and my business partner came up with Emotional Leadership Exploration, we knew that it was going to be something that could combat the systemic issues in education. And so the mission statement for Emoja is, within Emoja, we create a safe space for youth to explore themselves and their community with the intent of seeking effectual growth in both avenues. We develop curriculum and opportunities for youth to express their leadership qualities. We engage youth in self-development and team building workshops that develop intrinsic and extrinsic awareness. The awareness gain will not be confined. It will be free to create foundational positive change in the communities of the youth we serve and the world abroad. And so we do tons of workshops surrounding normalization and expectations, how our strengths are not permanent. A lot of times, you know, they do leadership trainings in which they tell people their strengths, and then people are confined to a box and they say, well, this is permanent. This is a strength that I had when I was taught this. And we don't believe that those things are permanent, because they're forever changing, because our identity is forever changing. Our experiences and our value system is forever changing. And so therefore our strengths are as well. We teach about empathy towards others and how sometimes in focusing on our struggles, we deny the struggles of other cultural groups. And so we talk about paradigm shifts and mindset, and we discuss what it means to be loved and how to express ourselves. And in a lot of these different workshops, we talk about how to handle conflict, cross-cultural conflict, as well as conflict with teachers and authority, and how to express it, and also how to learn when you are in a professional setting and when you are in a student setting and when you are in a personal setting where you can do different things. And so I appreciate this program because it has taught me a lot about myself. And on top of everything, it holds me accountable, because I can't teach students, I can't teach Black students or multicultural students who they are and how to attack what is currently happening in a way that is articulate, in a way that is not just based off of emotion, but in a way that provides feedback, provides facts, and provides just knowledge. And I think that the reason why I really appreciate Emoja is because this 12-week program works on extrinsic and intrinsic values. And so the intrinsic is yourself and who you are, your identity, your purpose, your vision of who you are, how you want to be loved. And then the extrinsic is learning about other people's cultures, learning about other people's walks of life, and seeing how that guides you and where you are today. And so Emoja Leadership Exploration right now is currently in North Dakota, in the Fargo district. It's one of the biggest districts in North Dakota. And we believe that these programs could further impact places all over the world, all over the globe. And I'm excited to expand out and branch out to other places like my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Chicago and New York and different places of that sort. But at the end of the day, in order to have a rites of passage program that works, you also need assessment, and you also need people aware of the current climate or culture in which you are in. And so all those things make this workshop activity-based program work. And it is meaningful, it is fun, and it means a lot to have professionals of color like myself and Janelle teaching a lot of these workshops. And so Kevin Watson and me, I appreciate Kevin for reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of this. And one thing I thought was funny was he was saying that the people who are watching this video would love some SMART goals. And I wanted to help. I wanted to make sure that I implemented these in, but I also want to say there is no easy fix. There's a multitude of goals that can be accomplished. Racism is a complex issue with a multitude of layers, a multitude of avenues of going about combating it. So there isn't one simple goal to combat racial discrimination, but rather avenues that require measurable, reliable, and timely goals to complete. And so one thing I would say for students, staff, or anybody, when it comes to racist behavior, when it comes to people saying things of racism, microaggressions and things of that sort, judge the behavior and not the intentions or the person's role or title. I think a lot of times people get away with what they said due to who they are. We live in a society where Donald Trump says that he cannot be racist, right? And I appreciate Ibram Kendi because he asks the question, what is the opposite of being racist? It's not being not racist, but it's being anti-racist. Support victims to organize themselves. For a long time in my life, if you watch the TED Talk, in which I have on YouTube, I talk about being a voice for the voiceless. I now believe that with my platform and with my power, I need to move over and allow people to speak for themselves because they know their experiences more than anybody else. And so that is my way of supporting and uplifting them. And then I think in the educational realm, it is up to superintendents and principals and teachers and different people of that sort to publish and disseminate as widely as possible brochures and educational worksheets about what is happening. It needs to be known that there's a survey that went out in Canada in 2019 that says that 53 Black Canadians feel as though they are not treated equally as white Canadians. There's surveys that go all over the world and all over America that show that there is a disconnect between white America and Black America, and it's not binary. There's so much from the left and the right and gray areas when it comes to understanding that we need people to be educated, but educated is most of the time in connection with schooling, but they are not the same thing. And so those are the short-term goals, but then there are long-term goals. So I think about creating certificates to reward local schools for their anti-racism, grants that fund schools doing school initiatives against racism, facilitating the production and partnership with professional groups affected by discrimination, provide training on racist crimes and conflict management for institutions, develop the shared assessment on how racism and oppression affect the work in organizations, develop shared language and analysis of institutional racism, power, privilege, and the connection to other oppression. And so I think this one is very important because the shared language depends on your local area, depends on your community. There are things that are happening in Canada that are not happening in America. There are things happening in America, North America, that are not happening in Australia. And what I am seeing is that you have to go based off of what is happening in your local community and develop a shared language and look at the institutional racism, look at the power and privilege and who has a say in what is happening and who has a say in what is being taught in schools and who talks about colonialism and whose story is it? Is it his story, the person who did the colonialism, the person who further gets rewarded from colonialism, or is it the people who are not in power and that are oppressed? And then developing teaching material and equalization of funding in schools. Unfortunately, we found out all throughout America, you can look through the Supreme Court and different things of that sort. They believe that you don't need equal funding in schools. There is a segregation of schools all throughout this country. And I'm sure there is a segregation of schools in Canada in which the resources being placed into schools where there are more the dominant core culture, they get more funding, they get more resources, they get more opportunity. And even right now, when you see this digital divide, right? When we are talking about virtual learning and how most students aren't even equipped with a laptop or Wi-Fi or different things of that sort. And the educators or the superintendents and principals and different people are like, we'll provide that for you. And then it's not there. And then you see that there are students, the same students who are struggling in schools are currently struggling virtually. And I think that a lot of times what ends up happening is that we say we don't know why this is happening, but the system was designed to perpetuate white supremacy. And so therefore, the failing of Black students, dropping out of Black students, the lack of resources for Black students was exactly what this system was designed to do. And so we cannot fake ignorant to it. And so that is why I think rites of passage programs are so important, because it gives students this ability to start thinking about these things long-term and short-term to combat it on their own terms. And I think a lot of times we are afraid of what our students can do, and we don't teach activism in schools. And that's why there is a lot of unarticulate and there's a lot of ignorant activism that happens. A lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. There's this social media activism that happens where people just read things on social media and they regurgitate that to the community, when in fact there are people who have spent their entire lives focusing on this stuff. They've spent their entire livelihood making sure and advocating for the people who are further marginalized. I think at some point in time, we have to do the work that makes transformative change, and rites of passage programs are one of those things that can be done. And so the existing research and data and public policy debates often fail to address programs that disrupt and dismantle the traditional status quo of educational disparities, harsh discipline, overrepresentation in special education, and a lack of resources provided to Black adolescents in public schools. Black adolescents who fail to receive a high school diploma are often headed towards low-income work, unemployment, and incarceration. The burden of harsh disciplinary policies, lack of sense of belonging, lack of culturally relevant curriculum, and negative treatment from authorities in public schools are risk factors for stunting educational opportunities for Black adolescents. Black adolescents' academic outcomes have been largely impacted due to racial discrimination. Black adolescent development is driven by interactions with school and staff inside that school. Black adolescents are facing discrimination, being punished unfairly, or being punished more severely than white counterparts, and they have devastating effects on academic performances and social and emotional lives. Black adolescents who possess a sense of belonging in schools will do better academically and be more academically motivated. Black adolescents need a culturally responsive curriculum because it yields positive learning outcomes. Culturally relevant curriculum, or the lack of there, directly impacts how Black students actively engage in their learning experiences. In addition, because Black adolescents are at a time where students spend more time away from home and away from parents, relationship with non-parents, teachers, disciplinary people in the schools are heavily associated with their self-concept, and school adjustment and grades. Black adolescents' academic success has largely been impacted because of their cultural identity. Black adolescents have been over-identified in special education and under-identified in gifted and talented programs. Rites of passage programs have been utilized to combat the lack of community and cultural divide. Black adolescents feel inside their schools with education. Rites of passage programs have been utilized to combat that lack of sense of belonging. And so rites of passage programs contain, but are not limited to, the community involvement, positive role models, collective instruction, cultural and personal identity development, high expectations, and safe supportive environment with an emphasis on achievement and finding one's purpose. So despite educational disparities, despite lack of sense of belonging, despite negative treatment from authority, rites of passage programs have the capability to provide protective factors for multicultural youth. A successful rites of passage program with the right assessment can change the future for youth all around the world. And so I'll end with this quote by John Dewey. What the best and the wisest parent wants for his child, that must be what we all want for children of the community. Anything less is unlovely and left unchecked and destroys our democracy. Thank you so much. And if you want to watch my TED Talk, it's on YouTube. You can Google me. I'm at Frederick Edwards Jr. You can find me on Facebook, Frederick Edwards Jr., public speaker. And my LinkedIn account is the same. And so Kevin and Ahen-Tben and all the people who have performed and all the people watching, I thank you so much. And I genuinely believe that in order to combat a system, we must think about things in the multitude of ways to further impact.
Thank you so much. It was great meeting you a couple of weeks ago. We spoke a couple of times on Zoom, and we had some great conversations about ways of helping students and Black students in particular succeed. And students' voice is so important that we talked about in our last meeting. I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the AHEN team and all our viewers and friends for the amazing job you did. Our work is not done yet. We have so much work to do as educators. As a teacher myself, I know in my class, I have a lot of work to do. After hearing a presentation, I don't know even where to start, but we have work to do. Thank you so much for that. Up next, he quickly spoke about First Nations and the things that they are dealing with. Ahen-Tben has prepared for you tonight our own rendition of what we call the land acknowledgement. I do want to bring our secretary here right now to read our land acknowledgement, our Ahen-Tben land acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
Okay. The land acknowledgement is Ahen-Tben acknowledges the indigenous people of this land, which are the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples that now now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, Ahen-Tben thanks you for sharing your land with us as we collaborate and build unity among our people to eliminate anti-racism, oppression, and the breakdown of any barriers that hold us hostage. Ahen-Tben will rise up with you in solidarity to be a positive change in the world. As so, we humbly thank you.
Ashe, awesome, thank you. We are going to rise up. Ahen-Tben will rise up. We are working really hard to provide services to the community. And we are here also to help you guys know about the importance of who we are and what the work we do. I do want to bring our communications person back on again to talk about ways how we can join Ahen-Tben. Tonight we spoke about a lot about our students, about teachers, about superintendents, about staff, but now we're going to talk quickly about you and how you can help us and how you can be a part of Ahen-Tben. Please welcome Bianca.
Wow, just so much fire has been coming from all these presentations and creative outlets. So I really am appreciative of the information that you shared, Kevin, as well. Of course, I have to support our local folks as well, Omarr and Freda, Bizimana, and I.M.F. Freda, Bizimana, I.M.F. I just, I wasn't aware of all these great programs that's happening locally, and of course our cousins in the States. So thank you so much. So much that we can relate to in regards to your presentation, education versus schooling, illusion and confusion. It's just, I don't even know where to begin. There's just so much fire that was coming from the presentation that was just so relatable. So I just had to acknowledge all of that before I went into how we, community members, people watching, people that may tune in and watch later, could become a member of Ahen-Tben. So I hope that folks will partner with us. As you can see, this is just a taste of some of the work that we are doing is connecting with community members to see how that we can support Black students to be more successful and truly provide education that is necessary to help them grow and, be truly included within society. And when that's not happening, how to advocate for them and ensure they are attaining and gaining the resources that is necessary. So to partner with us and become a member, one can become a member or donate to fund initiatives that we have going on to secure funding to establish new programs and initiatives as we expand our portfolio within the organization. One of our recent initiatives, what we did do prior to the return of school was provide some resources for students. As you know, with this global pandemic happening, some of our students come from, underfunded schools, as well as, some socioeconomic, challenges that they face within, their homes. So we were able to, raise some funds and provide them with back to school supplies. So these are just an idea of one of the initiatives, if you join as a member or make a donation, these are things that you would be supporting directly to the youth. So you can join us by sending an email to aheninfo@gmail.com. You can send an email there to ask any questions you may have. And you also could join us through our website. Actually, I should share my screen so folks can see exactly our website and where they could get in directly. So that would be more clear. So just bear with me. Okay, so as you can see here at the top, this is our website here. So ahentben.org, and it brings you here to the landing page with a message from our chairs, our co-chairs. And then right here, here's the tab up button, and you can click on it right here, and it'll take you to become a member. And here's the opportunity here to donate or to actually become a member. And then here is our contact us page. And you could just do it directly here, or you could, again, send us an email directly. And this is the Info Gmail email right here, where you can get in contact with the executives, and we will definitely reply to you and provide you with any necessary information that is required. Or again, you could just go to the Become a Member and you could do a donation, and you can leave a note as if it's whether a donation or you would like to pay a membership fee and be a part of some of our events. Some we have internal events that we have that are specified for members, some that are open general to the public. So there are benefits to becoming a member, where you can get specific catered membership services, which is joining specific events for members only. And you can also be a part of some cohorts to do specific things that you might be interested in participating. So if you're interested in curriculum, we have cohorts for curriculum. We have cohorts for community outreach, as well as for leadership. So that's just to name a few. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bianca. That's amazing. Joining Ahen-Tben is really important. I do understand that it's crucial that we join organizations that help our community to grow and to have our students have a chance to have a voice. Also, when you join a cohort, you can ask for my cohort, which is a curriculum, or other cohorts, and you can help to make a difference in our community. I do want to right now bring it back to our other chair, Valarie Taitt, who's going to tell us a little bit about, I'll bring it back to Valarie Taitt, who's going to now tell us about some amazing events that are going to start shortly and some cool initiatives that we have. But you want to make sure you go to our website, www.ahentben.org, to find out some more information and new updates. Things are always happening at Ahen. We have a lot planned for this year.
Time. Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. I'm going to ask for the screen to stop sharing at this time. And before I speak, I just want to make note that we had a little youngster, one of our little children on here, who was supposed to say her poem, but there were some technical difficulties. And you know what? They say that a child should lead the way. And we really, really want to hear from Savannah. So we're going to ask Savannah to come back on and say her poem if her technology is all worked out there. So Savannah, welcome back.
Thank you, Ms. Taitt. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity, and sorry for the technical difficulty issues that we had earlier. My name is Savannah McLennon. Don't be shy and take a good look at me. I will give you a minute and tell me what you see. I am that Black child, and I to face anti-Black racism at an early age. Sometimes people frowned about my intelligence. But I do not let that stop me, because my mom, my first teacher, taught me resilience. I am proud of my heritage and my identity. This will continue to shape and enable me to take a stance and be the best possible me. I am confident that I can achieve my every goal, but together with the support of my community. Let's rise up and be the best that we can be. I am that Black child that you will not fail, and with pavilion, I will prevail. Again, please do not be shy. Take a good look at me. I am the Black child, Savannah McLennon. Thank you.
Powerful speaker, powerful, powerful speaker. She is that Black child. Okay, I just want to let you know that there are many events that are coming up virtually. We are going to be having the Empowering Conference coming up in March. So look forward to those details. You can check out our website for more information, or you can email us at aheninfo@gmail.com, and we will answer any questions that you may have. So please look out for the second annual Empowerment Conference from Ahen-Tben again this year. Also, within the next few weeks, we will be having a financial literacy webinar. We're going to ask the other co-chair, Tina Opare, to come on and she can give you a highlight of that.
Thank you, Valarie. Financial literacy is becoming increasingly important as more and more Canadians are said to be living beneath the poverty line. Educational institutions are focusing on teaching financial literacy across the curricula, and governmental organizations as well are tweaking financial policies, such as the mortgage stress test. Come on February 16th to listen to the experts discuss how you can save for your children's post-secondary education. We will discuss RSPs, tax-free savings accounts, and everything in between. On February 16th at 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., engage in Q&A sessions and specific workshops to help you manage your finances in order to get out and stay out of debt. Featured speakers include a math and numeracy educator and author, a representative from Educators Financial Group, as well as representatives from the World Financial Group. A brief survey will be sent out to you, our members, to determine your interest for the breakout sessions. Registration will be through Eventbrite. Please complete the survey and have it back to us by January 19th so that we can plan a phenomenal seminar for you. Don't forget to register on Eventbrite beginning Wednesday. Thank you.
Before we go back to Mr. Watson, I'd like to take this time to once again just introduce our execs, as some of them were having technical difficulties coming on tonight. When I call on you, please turn on your cameras and just wave. So we have Tina Opare, who is one of the co-chairs. We have Jenessa Halmer, who is the treasurer. We have Donminique Taitt, who is the secretary. We have Simone Crooks McKenzie, who is the other secretary.
Hi.
We have Madeline Bussue, who is one of the social conveners. We have Mr. Watson, who is also a social convener, and he also supports communication. And we have Miss Bianca Parris, who is our communications lead liaison. And we have Valarie Taitt, who she's right here talking to you. So have a wonderful night, and I'm going to pass it back over to Mr. Watson. Thank you.
I do want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It was an awesome presentation. What a great job we did. I think I do want to say special thanks to our sponsors, LALOB, TDSB, and other sister school boards that have been working with us. Also our partners. If you go to our website, www.ahen-tben.org, click on partners, you can see all of our partners. They've been working with us night and day to make sure we can have good resources for you guys to use and to implement to make sure that our students do matter. So remember, our Black students matters, and so do all students matter. Student success is our success. I do want to ask everyone to turn on their camera right now quickly, so we can all wave goodbye to all of you guys. So can everyone turn their camera on, please? And the count of, I guess, let's count down from 5. Let's all wave at the same time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's wave goodbye. And thank you everyone for all the hard work. You can turn your microphones off and say goodbye if you want to, and say bye to everyone, all your friends.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone to come tonight. And I hope you guys stay safe. Remember, if you have your mask, wear your mask. I have a special Ahen mask. I wear mine all the time. Make sure you guys stay safe. Use your sanitizer. And remember, social distancing. And we hope to see you guys at our next event. It's coming up really, really soon. and we have a lot of work to do. So we're here for you. If you have any questions, make sure you go to our website, hit contact, email us. And remember,